If you're an endurance athlete, you know the single biggest performance killer isn't the distance, it isn't the elevation, it's the heat.
Oh, absolutely.
That moment your core temp starts to spike, your body's efficiency just plummets, your race is, well, it's pretty much done.
And we're always looking for that, that physiological cheat code, something safe that gives you an edge.
And today we're doing a deep dive into something really fascinating, a technique that was once just for cardiac surgery protection. Ischemic Preconditioning, or IPC.
Right. And we're focusing on a new piece of research that asks a really crucial question. Can this technique actually work in a true high-heat environment?
So what's the source we're digging into?
Our mission today is to analyze the paper, Effective Ischemic Preconditioning on Endurance Running Performance in the Heat. It's by Anjie, Wang, and Chansol, Hurr, and it was just published in the Journal of Sport Science and Medicine in 2024.
Okay, let's unpack this for everyone listening. IPC. What are we actually asking the body to do here?
Well, ischemic preconditioning involves these brief, controlled periods where you deliberately block blood flow.
That's the ischemia part.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you follow that immediately by restoring the flow, which is called reperfusion. It's basically a protective warm-up for your circulatory system.
A warm-up originally used in medicine, you said?
Yeah, to protect the heart against damage, like before a big surgery. But lately, scientists have been wondering if it can boost athletic performance.
So the fundamental problem this study is trying to solve, it's really about a competition for blood flow when you're exercising in the heat.
You've nailed the problem. Exercising in intense heat creates this massive strain.
Right.
You have two competing demands. Your muscles are screaming for blood to create power.
And at the same time, your skin is screaming for that same blood to dump heat and cool you down.
It's a zero-sum game, and when the body has to choose between moving and cooling, performance suffers. So the question is, can IPC make that whole system more efficient?
Okay, let's jump straight into the study design. This wasn't some gentle jog in a warm room, was it?
Not at all. This was set up as a serious physical test. They took 12 healthy subjects.
And these were trained people?
Yes, regular endurance trainers. They had a good fitness baseline, a VSHO max around 54.4.
Okay.
And they used a randomized crossover design, which is excellent. It means every participant was their own control.
Which really cuts down on the noise in the data and the environment itself. I heard it was brutal.
Oh, intentionally brutal. The runs were in a controlled chamber at 35 degrees Celsius.
That's 95 Fahrenheit.
Yep, with 50% humidity. It's that soupy air where you feel like you're melting.
Ugh.
That's the kind of stress they wanted to test.
So let's talk about the intervention. How did they actually do the IPC?
They used pressure cuffs on the upper thighs. For the real IPC condition, they did 4 cycles of 5 minutes of occlusion at a really high pressure, 220 millimole Hg.
And they checked to make sure it was fully blocking flow.
They did, with a Doppler ultrasound. Total occlusion. Then they'd release for 5 minutes and repeat.
And the sham, the control group, how did they fake it?
Same schedule, 4 5-minute periods, but with a tiny amount of pressure, just 20 millimole Hg. So you feel the cuff, you think something is happening.
But there's no real physiological effect. It keeps the study blind.
Exactly.
Okay, so after the treatment, the exercise protocol was designed to measure stress at different levels. They did 2 runs, EX1 and EX2.
Correct. EX1 was a 6-minute, pretty moderate run. That's at your first ventilatory threshold, VT1.
The pace where you can still hold a conversation.
Right. But the main event, the real pressure test, was EX2.
Tell us about EX2.
EX2 was a high-intensity time-to-exhaustion test. This was at their second ventilatory threshold, VT2.
So that's your red line pace. You're going as hard as you can for as long as you can.
That's it. You hit a wall of fatigue and lactate. And that time-to-exhaustion metric is key because it measures your absolute performance limit under that maximal heat stress. If IPC works, you'll see it there.
So the million-dollar question, what did the data show? Did IPC help them stay on that treadmill longer?
The answer is a clear, resounding yes.
Really?
During that really tough EX2 test, the total running time was significantly longer after the IPC treatment compared to the sham.
Okay, give us the numbers. How big was the difference?
In the sham condition, the average run time was about 389 seconds.
Yeah, just over 6.5 minutes.
Right. After the IPC treatment, that time jumped up to 416 seconds.
Wow, that's a pretty big shift. What does that break down to in percentage terms?
The big takeaway is that endurance performance improved by 6.9%.
6.9%. In elite sport, that's not just a gain, that's a game changer.
It's the difference between being on the podium and not even being in the picture. It's a substantial, highly significant gain.
But hold on. A 6.9% average is massive. Was this a universal benefit? Did every single subject get better?
And that's where we hit a key complexity with IPC research: individual variability. The scatter plot showed that while the average was powerful, it was really driven by 8 of the 12 subjects. 4 of them actually didn't show an improvement.
So we have responders and non-responders.
Exactly. It's not a magic bullet for every single person. We'll come back to that, but first, let's talk mechanisms. Why did the responders last longer? The study looked deep into cardiac function.
What happened to the heart's performance?
What's so fascinating is that the benefit to the heart was only seen during that high-intensity run, EX2.
Not during the easy jog.
No, during EX1, there was no real difference. It confirms the benefit is intensity-dependent. It kicks in when the system is truly stressed by the heat.
So when the body was forced to choose cooling versus muscle, that's when the preconditioning gave it an edge.
Precisely. And when they looked at the metrics at the point of failure, 2 key things jumped out after IPC: stroke volume and cardiac output.
Okay, let's break those down. Stroke volume.
That's the amount of blood the heart pumps with each beat. After IPC, it was 150.4 milliliters. After the sham, it was only 128.2.
That's a huge difference.
It's enormous. And because of that, the cardiac output, the total volume per minute, also went way up from about 25 liters a minute to over 27.
So that improved cardiac output has to be the link to better performance. The engine is just running stronger.
It absolutely is. And the author suggests this is tied to IPC improving endothelial function, the health of the lining of your blood vessels. They become more efficient.
Okay, that covers the engine. But what about the other half of the problem, the cooling system? Did IPC actually help the body stay cooler?
Yes, and this is a critical piece of the puzzle. It actively reduced the thermal strain.
How so?
They looked at the change in core body temperature, TCORE, and the increase was consistently lower in the IPC condition.
And in that all-important EX2 run, how big was the cooling effect?
That's where the difference really widened. By the time they hit exhaustion, their core temperature was lower by a very meaningful 0.16 degrees Celsius in the IPC group.
That might not sound like a lot, but at your absolute physical limit in 95-degree heat, a fraction of a degree is everything.
It's the difference between continuing and failing.
So how did they link this cooling back to the vascular system?
They connected it through something called cutaneous vascular conductance, or CVC. It's basically the gold standard for measuring blood flow to the skin for heat dissipation.
And CVC improved.
It did. It suggests that IPC helps the body push more blood to the skin for cooling, but without compromising the heart's ability to supply the muscles.
So it's not just protecting the muscle, it's hacking the cooling system.
That's a great way to put it.
Now, the study went beyond cardiac function and cooling. It looked at metabolic efficiency through VCHO kinetics. Did IPC make their energy systems run cleaner?
They saw clear signs of improved efficiency, again, only during the high-intensity exercise. 2 key findings. First, end exercise VCHOS was actually higher in the IPC condition.
Which makes sense. If they lasted longer, they used more oxygen overall. But what about efficiency?
That's where the second finding comes in. The VCHO slow phase amplitude was significantly lower after IPC.
The VCHO slow component. That sounds very technical. Why should a runner care if that number is high or low?
Because it's essentially a measure of metabolic waste. It represents a loss of efficiency over time, a growing oxygen cost for the same amount of work.
So a lower number is better.
A much lower number. It's strongly linked to fatigue. Seeing it reduced suggests the muscle fibers are operating more efficiently from the start, which delays fatigue.
And the proposed mechanism for that is similar to the cardiac one, right? Involving nitric oxide.
Yes, that's the plausible explanation. IPC seems to boost nitric oxide, or NO, which is a powerful vasodilator. Better blood flow, better regulation, more efficient muscle fibers.
So we have a triple threat: better heart function, better cooling, and better metabolic efficiency. But you mentioned something that didn't change, which is just as important.
Correct. They found IPC had no significant effect on muscle oxygen saturation, or SMO. Meaning the benefit wasn't about the muscles getting better at pulling oxygen out of the blood. It was about the body getting better at distributing that blood systemically to the heart, to the skin, wherever it was needed most.
Okay, let's pivot to the limitations. Because even with a 6.9% improvement, we need to understand the nuances, especially that non-responder issue.
Absolutely. So those 4 subjects who didn't improve, the study noted that 3 of them were female.
Oh, interesting.
Now, the sample size for women was really small, only 4 in total, but it does suggest a potential sex difference, which other studies have hinted at before. We need more research there.
And what about methodological cautions, things we should keep in mind when looking at these results?
Well, first, the test itself. A time-to-fatigue test like EX2 can have high variability. The finding is strong and indicative, but a time trial, which is more like real-world racing, would make it even more definitive.
And what about the heart data? We're hanging a lot on that stroke volume jump.
And that data was collected using impedance cardiography. While they were careful, the technique can be prone to errors, especially from movement and, sweat.
Right, so a lot of sweat could potentially throw off the measurement.
It could. So we have to treat those exact numbers with a slight grain of salt. The trend is clearly there, but the precise values should be viewed cautiously.
So, to synthesize this for everyone listening, what's the final nuanced verdict on IPC for running in the heat?
The verdict is highly promising. IPC improved high-intensity endurance running in the heat by a significant 6.9%.
And that gain seems to be linked to better cardiac function and better cooling.
Yes, driven by increased stroke volume and a reduced thermal strain. And crucially, the effect is intensity dependent. It only really shows up when you're pushing your absolute hardest.
So here's where it gets interesting for the future. We know it works for these regularly training subjects, but the application is key.
And this raises a question for you, the listener. If this provides such a huge boost, but about a third of the subjects were non-responders, could we pre-screen athletes? Maybe look at their individual vascular function to see who will actually benefit.
So you could turn it from a general technique into a highly targeted elite performance enhancer.
Exactly. For athletes preparing for a huge competition in extreme heat, like Tokyo or Doha.
That is definitely something to mull over. If you want to dive into all the data, see the scatter plots, and read the full methodology, we highly encourage you to read the full article by Wang and Hurr in the Journal of Sports Science and Medicine.
We are always digging into the cutting edge of performance and health.
So make sure you follow the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next deep dive.